Welcome. This breakout session is titled Time Saved versus Time Served, We Resolve, a Participatory Defense Hub. If you have any questions for our presenters, please use the Q&A function on Zoom. Also, if you have any technical difficulties, please email info@mnjrc.org or text 612-361-3951. I'll put this in the chat too. I would now like to turn it over to your presenters for today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Damon Drake. I'm leading up the team at We Resolve. Marquette.
Hi, and my name is Marquetta. I am a community resolver with We Resolve.
And my name is Tim Dorway. I'm also a community resolver with We Resolve, and I work for Alpha Emergence, and I can't get that screen off here right now, so you're going to have to deal with me, I guess.
All right. We wanted to get started with a short video that gives you a little background and a little understanding about the history of participatory defense. So, Tim, if you can get that going.
Yep, give me just a second here. I'm going to make sure I click the right boxes.
These are people waiting in line back in my hometown in San Jose, getting ready to go into court. They're connected by one looming, anxiety-filled question. Will I go to prison or jail? Will I be part of the over 2 million people incarcerated in this country? And the reality is that 8 out of 10 people that face the justice system can't afford their own attorney. And so they have a public defender who's doing heroic work, but is under-resourced and stretched bare with too many cases. And so as a result, people that are facing the justice system, unsure of how to navigate those courts and separated from their families and communities, over 90% will take a plea deal, meaning they'll never see their day in a trial court. But we have a solution. We make the family an essential and effective part of the defense team so they could change the outcome of cases and transform the landscape of power in the court system. How it works is friends like Blanca, who have loved ones that are facing the justice system, convene in a weekly meeting with other families who have loved ones that are facing the courts. And they build a community out of what otherwise would have been an isolating, intimidating process. And they write the names of their loved ones on a board. And collectively, they go through every single name, identifying specific places where the family could have tangible impact on the outcome of the case. They will identify tactics like creating biographical material so that their loved one is understood by the courts not as just a case file. And they'll review police reports and point out inconsistencies that prove innocence. And they'll work with the public defender, who now has a new resource at their disposal that is as committed as they are in seeking justice for their client. And the results have been remarkable. We've seen charges dismissed, sentences be significantly reduced, not guilty verdicts, even appeals of the initially wrongfully convicted. And we have one ceremony in this model we call participatory defense, which is when a loved one comes home and they've been a name on the board that we've seen or just understood through a mom's story. That person is given an eraser. And they walk over to the board and they erase their name. And it means that the family has been made whole. And for those other families who are just starting the journey, going through the most frightening times of their lives, it means that there is hope and a finish line for them too if they engage and participate. And the person that I wanted to introduce my PopTech family to as a way to describe the process is Carnell. Carnell pled guilty to a low-level drug charge, but was facing a 5-year prison sentence. And his main concern was, as a single father, what would happen to his 2 young girls if he got locked up. So we gave him a camera, and we said, take pictures of what it's like being a dad. So he took pictures of making the girls breakfast and taking them to school and driving them to volleyball practice. And he made this photo essay that he gave to his public defender, who used at the sentencing hearing. And that 5 years of prison was transformed into a 6-month outpatient drug program so that Carnell could be with his 2 young girls. And his daughters would have a father in their lives. And Carnell could get the treatment that he was seeking for himself and for the future of his family. And Carnell's not the only story. We have one metric that we use in participatory defense. We call it time saved. It's a play on the term time served, which is what the course call time of incarceration. So what we do is we look at what was a family facing when they first came to us versus what they received after they worked the model. And so Carnell would represent 5 years of time saved. When we reviewed all our cases and we totaled the numbers, we had 1,862 years of time saved. Now, those are years with parents in their children's lives, of young people going to college instead of prison, of generational cycles of suffering that have been eliminated, all from the power, will, and intellect of families. We're training communities all across the country now. And what I would ask of you is when you go back to your hometown, and if you see a line peeking out the courtroom doors of your city, know that those people are not necessarily just the fodder of mass incarceration on a conveyor belt to jail or prison. They're potentially the founding mothers and fathers of a new movement that may change the way justice is experienced and exercised in America forever. Thank you.
All right. All right. Well, that, as you can see, this is now the different hubs throughout the country. So there are over 35 chapters or hubs throughout the country. And now their numbers are up to 16,000 years of time saved. So as you look at the map, participatory defense has been around about 15 years. And as you look at the map, most of the hubs are along the West Coast, the East Coast, and in the South. We are the only hub in the Midwest. We actually were overtraining a hub in South Dakota. Hopefully they'll be starting up soon. But this is a little bit of the history of participatory defense, and you can see how this movement has spread all throughout the country. Tim, next. So participatory defense is spread throughout the country, and we, as We Resolve, started a hub here in the Twin Cities 3 years ago, and this is our mission. We are a group of Twin Cities families, artists, and organizers resolved to walk with individuals, families, and communities as they empower themselves using the participatory defense model to defend their loved ones against a discriminatory punishment system. So that's our team. A little bit about our team. And this is a part of the model throughout the country. In order to be a part of the core team, you have to be somebody who has been directly impacted by the criminal legal process, meaning someone who has been charged, has had to defend themselves in court, who has done time or been convicted, or someone in their family has had to go through this process also. In order to be a part of our core team, we have to have somebody who has been directly impacted. Next screen, Tim. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we do, and I'm going to skip around a little bit on this sheet. So as I was just talking about, in order to be a part of the core team, you have to be somebody who's directly impacted. So a lot of times people want to come in and they want to volunteer. So maybe they're not directly impacted. They ask, what can we do? So what we ask people to do is they can support our families and our loved ones as they go into the courtrooms. So we ask them to do court support. So when our families and our loved ones go in, we bring community members from all segments, from all backgrounds into the courtroom to support our loved ones, and it makes a difference. The court automatically looks at you in a different way when you're supported by your community and by your neighbors. The other thing that we do, and I need to slow down a little bit here. If you guys have any questions, please shoot the questions out so I can answer them. You don't have to wait until the end of the session. We can stop and have conversation around something at any time. So the next thing that we do is called the first appearance intervention. So we actually go out to arraignment court in Ramsey County. And when we see family members, especially Black and brown folks that are in the gallery waiting for their cases to be heard or waiting for their loved ones' cases to be heard, we approach them. We let them know that we have a partnership with the Ramsey County Public Defender's Office. And if they can provide us, we have a short sheet that they could fill out that talks about their loved ones, talk about their relationships, talk about, you know, do they have a job, all those kind of things, the kind of things that we need, that those families need them to be at home and not be incarcerated. They put all that stuff down on that sheet. We give that to the public defenders, and in hopes that that will help the public defender get a reduced bail for their loved ones or get their loved ones released. So that's something that we also, while we're there, we give people this sheet called the First 24. So the First 24 actually talks about what do you do in the first 24 hours of your loved one being arrested. So if your loved one needs medication, where do you take that medication? Who do you call in order to make sure that your loved one gets that medication? That's all on the First 24. The next thing we do is, as people are going through this criminal legal process, they're not just in need of legal services or legal help. They need housing. They need treatment sometimes. They need employment. So there's a wide array of things that people are dealing with as they go through this process. So we have a really good connection with community-based organizations that can help and assist folks as they go through that process. As they're going through the criminal legal process with us, these other organizations can help them with employment and housing and things like that. The next thing is the monthly meetings. So we are a part of the Participatory Defense Movement or network. So every month, all of the different chapters come together and they meet and they discuss different cases. So say there's a case that's in a state where we don't have a hub, we can bring that case to that monthly meeting and people from all over the country can brainstorm on different solutions and things that we could come up with, maybe to assist that individual or to assist that family. We also, at that time, if we're having some kind of difficulty with a particular case that we're dealing with, we can present that at the monthly meeting and we can get experts from all over the country to give us suggestions and maybe point us in different directions in order to get solutions for the families and the community that we're working with here. So,
Damon,
yeah.
we had a question from somebody, and actually you just answered part of it. The question was, out of curiosity, what is the hub in St. Louis? and whether that was any relation at all to Ferguson, and then how do the defense hubs collaborate, which you kind of just answered. But what do we know about the hub in St. Louis?
We don't know much about the hub in St. Louis. We know that the hub exists. That has not been a hub that I have had particular interactions with. I'm sure they check in the monthly meetings, but we don't have like close relationships or anything like that. We have close relationships with the hub in Knoxville, Tennessee, also in San Francisco, and the headquarters in Simi Valley. So the other thing is, I'm sorry, is there more?
No, I just said thank you.
Okay. The other thing is that we're doing education. So right now we're working with 2 colleges, and we're going out doing presentations with them to talk about the legal system, to actually get some of those students in the courtroom to see what's going on in the courtroom, and to make sure that our next generation and our community. So we're doing that with our community. But we're also doing that with the schools to make sure that the schools have a better understanding of what their neighbors are going through when they go into the criminal legal process. These other things we're going to talk a little bit about more as the presentation goes on. You could switch over there. All right. So one of the things that we do is we meet weekly. We meet on Tuesday nights. At that weekly meeting, we're trying to make sure that we're building collective. So one of the things that you think about is a mom comes there and she's there to support her son. And there's another mom that shows up and she's supporting her son too. And she hears that this mom has court next week. And now she shows up with her daughter and some other members of her family to support that mom. And now these 2 families have come together in order to support both of their loved ones. And that's how we build this collective. So they're constantly that we're building families and supporting each other. And one of the other main thing that we do is to try to eliminate the isolation that the system puts us in, right? So the system automatically, when you're taken into custody, when you're put in detention, when they ship you way off to a place like Rush City or Moose Lake or something like that, they are trying to isolate you and separate you from the community. So we try to do everything we can to make sure that the families are not feeling isolated, not feeling shamed. They understand that there are other people sitting around the table at this weekly meeting that have gone through this exact same process and that are there to support them, however long it takes. So
Damon,
yeah,
can I add
Yep.
something too?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and the other part about this that Damon has really emphasized is, those of us that are at that table know the system. We know the roadblocks that are inside that wall, inside that county jail, and we know how we're able to help the family in some ways navigate them, because in most cases, those family members have not been inside those same places. It's especially helpful when we're trying to work with someone who is trying to do an appeal of some sort and is incarcerated inside the DOC. There's all kinds of systems inside the DOC that not only isolate those that are incarcerated, but also isolate families. And so because we've all been there in some capacity, it's good to be in a room with people who have that lived experience and are able to talk the talk and help them navigate or find ways, honestly, around some of those systems.
Yeah, and that is one of the things about the meeting. As the meeting goes on, that there are different folks that are throwing out suggestions. Hey, maybe you want to try this. Maybe you want to go to this organization. Maybe you want to talk to this person. So it's all this collective of information and expertise that's sitting at that table that can help community members navigate this system. So one of the other things that we I want to emphasize is that when people come into the meeting space, the first things we tell them, the two kind of speeches, I guess, that we give. First is we say, hey, we're not attorneys, we're not a legal clinic, and we're not a service agency. So we're not here to serve, right, or to take care of the problem for somebody else. We're here to work with you, and to, if you show up and put in the work, then we'll be there helping and supporting you as you go through the process. But we're not here to do the work for you, right? So we're not. We make sure that we let people know that we're not a service organization, but we're trying to build this mentality with this expertise at the table, so that even when we're not there, the community has the information and knows how to go about helping their loved ones as they go through this process. All right, Tim, we can go to the next one. All right. Yeah, I'm
Hello,
gonna switch over to
everyone.
Marquita. Go ahead.
I'm Marquita. I
Marquita,
help.
Marquita, would you share too? I know Damon and I talked about this earlier. Will you share like how you ended up as a community resolver? Because I think that's a really important part of our presentation.
Yes. All right. So my name is Marquita, and I help We Resolve with creating social biographies for our people. I started out with We Resolve by coming to We Resolve to get their help with my loved one who was in Hennepin County jail, and we were able to help him reduce, I think it was almost 144 years, to him coming home to do a drug court program, and we were able to help him get home to see his family. He was able to do drug treatment program, and with that came out a lot of positive things. He's home now with his family, and he also is helping the people in his treatment program. So, and he's also part of We Resolve as well. He comes to the meetings every week. And when I first started with We Resolve, it was so hard, like to stay focused and to keep fighting. It was hard to not give up, because I didn't know anything about the prison system, the jail system, and coming to the weekly meetings like relieved so much stress from me, like, and the support that we were getting from the group and the community in the court system. Every time DeAndre, my fiance, I'm sorry, is the loved one who I'm speaking of, had court, the courtrooms were packed, the Zoom court was packed, because sometimes there was in-person court, sometimes there was court over through Zoom, but the judge and the attorneys and the prosecutors really paid attention to that and seeing that he had a lot of support. And I think that impacted his outcome of his case a lot, with the support and the love that he was receiving from everyone, from the group and the community. And I was asked to work with We Resolve because I was the one who created DeAndre's social biography, and turned out to be really good. And I love what I do. I'm here now, and now I'm going to go into what the social biographies are all about. If you don't know, a social biography is a comprehensive way to show the character of and support of a person facing charges in order to impact the outcome of their case. So basically, like, I create a PowerPoint or a video. A social biography can be created by video and pictures. We gather a host of different things from the families, things like pictures, character letters from family and community support. We talk about like people's past hardships that they have been through. We talk about their future accomplished or future goals that they would like, future prospects that they would like to accomplish. We also talk about their past accomplishments as well. And with those things, we ask them to give us pictures or videos or anything that can support those things that they bring to us. Our approach is basically rooted in telling our loved one's story, humanizing them, and showing the courts that they're more than just their case or their charges that they have been charged with. Recognizing that we're part of a larger community, political, economical, historical, and social system. When we're creating the social bios, it's centered around the agency of the family. So like we're holding them accountable, and they're also doing the work. They're collecting those items while going through this hard time, and we're helping them by putting these things into this PowerPoint to present to the courts. And it can be used in all parts of the court process, not just during the sentencing process. They can present we've had social bios being presented in several different parts of the court system, whether it's the sentencing or during trial. Sometimes it's not presented to the courts and it's presented to the attorney, and that's all that's needed to affect the case. I'm going to go on to showing you guys some different slides from a few different people's social bios that we've created. This one here shows one of our members of our group. His name is Carl Christensen, and the first slide basically shows like a picture of him and the table of contents. It shows you the different things that you will be seeing throughout the PowerPoint. The first point is a list of family and friends that have written letters. And then the next point is community support. And you see he has a lot of community support letters. And those letters are basically just talking to Carl's character and how they know him and whatever they feel they would like to say to the courts or to Carl or to the judge. Then we get into talking about their past accomplishments and their past hardships and then their future prospects. To the right here, or to the left here, we have Carl's past hardships. He had a death of his brother while incarcerated and was unable to attend the funeral. He also had 100% service connected. He's a disabled veteran due to PTSD. He's a recovering he's recovery of alcohol abuse. He has past mental health issues and also divorced since November 16th of 2022. And so that basically just shows you like the different things like that people go through that the judge and the courts don't see. And that's kind of part of the way that we humanize, show that we can humanize our people. Here's a letter that Carl's granddaughter and daughter wrote for him. And this was put into his social bio as well. I'm not going to read the letter, but we'll go. And there's a picture of him and his granddaughter there playing the piano. So we're going to go on to the next slide. And this is a different person that we have worked with. His name is Jefferson. And this is just a few pictures of him and his two younger children. He's a single father, and he's come from Mexico, and he was just having a hard time fighting with the courts. I won't go too much into his case. We'll go on to the next slide. And here is just a letter that his friend wrote for him. We'll go on to the next slide. And this just talks about how Jefferson was a hard worker, and well, how he is a hard worker, and how he put so many hours and years into himself. He brought himself a home and was able to help his two older children buy a home. And he was able to finally get his two older children to the United States from Mexico to be here with him and his two younger children. I'm going to hand off to my colleague, Tim, who will wrap this up for us. Is there any questions before we?
Yeah, actually, that's great timing, Marquita. So Katie asked, do we all have different strategies depending on the judge and other personnel in the court who are assigned to the case? And do certain strategies like the social biography only work well with specific judges? And then thank you for our work.
Yeah, can I jump in on that one?
Yeah.
The social biography in many cases has to do with what the defense's approach is. So depending on what the defense in many cases drives the way that we're going to put together the social biography. So if there's certain aspects of the case that or the person that the defense wants to point out, say like in Carl's case, about the hardships that he's already had to endure. So his case was it had strung out a long time. So it's almost 3 years that he was dealing with this case over many years. So the attorney wanted to point out that he had already suffered. He had already gone through all these hardships, and it really didn't make any sense for us to continue to try to get this pound of flesh. And it did, it made a difference in his case. So I think we really tried to focus on what's the defense strategy, and then we tailor make the social biography to that. Did that answer the question, Tim?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely, we know the judges in some specific counties, and that is something that we discuss at our meetings, like who's the judge, and in some cases, who's the public defender or who's the defense attorney, because we do have some defense attorneys that turn to us frequently. Damon, do you want to talk about the one that we worked with, who then turned around and contacted us again after we fought for him?
Yeah, well, I think there's the other the aspect is sometimes when you were just talking about the judges and how the judges take it or don't take it. Sometimes the defense attorneys are reluctant to use the social biographies also, and it's because it's something new. It's because they don't really know what it's going to do or how it's going to impact. So sometimes we have to fight with the public defender sometimes to present the social biography. And in some cases, we presented a social biography and the public defender said, oh, he didn't think it was worth presenting. But eventually he turned around and said that it may not have influenced the court, but it influenced him to fight this case harder. And actually he admitted to the court that he didn't represent one of our loved ones the way he should have, and he brought that loved one back to court, presented further evidence, including the social biography, and our loved one was actually released, had to do a short time in the workhouse, and was eventually released into probation. I see there's another question too.
Yeah. And this question is, what tools can we use or are used to humanize clients during bail hearings and first appearance?
Well, yeah, that's one of the things that we, during the first appearance, what we try to do is to make sure that the public defenders and the court know the background of this person, that we are talking about. This is the loved one that gives grandma the insulin shot. This is the person who picks the kids up when they get off the school bus. That we try to relate the human aspects of this individual and the importance of that individual to not only to the family, but to the overall community and the ties that they have. So many times, if the public defender has that extra information and also has people who are in the courtroom who are concerned about them, it goes a long way, more so than a person who's sitting there by themselves with no support and with no extra information. And they're under duress. So, you know, when your public defender comes in and talks to you for 5 minutes before you go into your bail hearing or your first appearance, you're not thinking of, oh, I'm the one who gives grandma the shot, you know, and I got to get home, you know, to take care of the kids or this and that. You're just thinking about what's going on, what's going to happen next. So a lot of times you're in this state of duress, so you can't clearly give them all the information that they need. They are also in a state of duress many times because they have very high caseloads and high numbers of folks that they're dealing with that day. So they need to be given that extra information and that extra push to say, hey, we the community and we the family are watching you, and we want you to do your best for our loved one.
And I think the other thing to that question is that that is not a so often that is not part of the process, because it's, I mean, honestly, first appearance is chaos. You know, a public defender comes in, they're representing 4 people at their first appearance. They literally just got assigned. And oftentimes that's the first connection we have with a family, and have very little opportunity to talk to the public defender. A lot of our people come to us after that first appearance to find out more information. And, you know, is there an opportunity there to be more involved? Absolutely. And maybe that it's just another example of the isolation that happens during this whole process. You know, you given access to your attorney 3 minutes before you have to make your first appearance. You're still in custody. You don't know who's showing up in court for you, or if anyone is. It's a, you know, and it's scary, period. Another question is, when is the information given to the public defender?
Well, we give the social biography to the public defender as soon as we collect as much information as we can. We try to get that done before any court dates, but again, as we mentioned earlier, that it can be presented to the court or to the public defender at any point throughout this person's case, because each individual has something different going on.
And that question actually runs really well into this next section, which is, you know, what do we do in between meetings or in between court, you know, in between court hearings and those types of things. So my name is Tim, and kind of my job is really to do whatever Damon asks me, quite honestly, or tells me. But I do a lot of the background kind of the background work, data collection, communications, like coordination of email blasts when we need to have people in court, kind of an assistant type role. And so a lot of this work that happens in between meetings is work that I do. As Damon was saying, we do have some public defenders that are really good about us. There's still a lot of, I guess, a lack of information. We have a really good relationship with John Raymer at Ramsey County, and he often will encourage his defense team to contact us. The most success we have, actually, I would suggest, is not necessarily with the public defender, her or himself, but with the dispositional advisors. It is not uncommon for me to have 3 or 4 email communications weekly regarding people that we are supporting in our community with dispositional advisors. Once we get that signed release of information from the person or the person's family that we're supporting, we get that to the public defender or to the defense attorney. Oftentimes it takes a while and multiple emails. we all know that the caseloads of public defenders are insane, and they have many people that they're trying to support. So we just have to be persistent, and part of that work in between meetings is being persistent. You know, I'm trying to communicate with the dispositional advisor about custody status, about upcoming hearings, whether or not that they want us to pack the court for those hearings. Marquette is working on the social biography things, communicating with family members, creating packets for the family members. Shout out to one of our partner organizations, We Are All Criminals. I'm sure many of you are aware of Emily and her organization's work. She does a lot of the photography for us. It's a talent of hers and her team. So she will go take a lot of the photos that you see there are photos that she has taken, photos that her team has taken on our website, professional photos that just really tell stories. And so there's coordination of that. We also have worked with Minnesota Freedom Fund very closely on bail, you know, cash bail, and trying to get that for people that we're supporting if they are incarcerated, coordinating families and how they can apply with Minnesota Freedom Fund to get that support. Minnesota Freedom Fund also helps coordinate rides for family members or people to their court hearings. And so there's a lot of times communication there. In addition to that, I go through every one of the cases that we are supporting weekly, update a document for us that all of our team has access to with upcoming hearings, any important information about whether, you know, somebody has been released on bail or not, you know, what their custody status is. And then at our weekly meeting, then that's oftentimes where we kind of set the schedule for the next week about people we need to be in communication with. And, you know, in between meetings, we're trying to connect with others. Damon presents a lot to community members and talks about our work. You know, we've got those students, that student group from St. Thomas, we've got a student group from Bethel that we're working with, and doing presentations such as this. And also, you know, just trying to receive support for our organization, financially, volunteers, those types of things. We are very careful to work with families and the defense team about when to show up. You know, a lot of these hearings sadly last 30 seconds. And, you know, our impact at those hearings may not be as big or as important as an impact at an omnibus hearing or at a plea hearing or some other form of argument. I would say in all instances for the people that we support, we are at their sentencing hearings because we do want to pack the court and we want the community to know that these are human beings that have love and support from their community. Damon didn't talk about this, but more than once that he's been called to the stand to talk about We Resolve and our partnerships actually at the sentencing hearing. And especially in those cases, those are judges we want to work with because they're truly invested and they want to know about our work. Philip asks, do we have any chapters in rural Minnesota? We do not. Minneapolis, St. Paul, where we are in Ramsey is the only one in Minnesota. However, I will tell you, and Damon would as well, and so would Marquette, that more and more we are starting to get questions from outlying counties. Currently, we are supporting a young woman in Nicollet County, which is down by Mankato. We have a really good relationship with the Mankato Public Defender's Office and a really good relationship with especially one of their dispositional advisors. Just classic, I'm just going to say it, rural white Minnesota. And a young woman of color who is really being isolated, overcharged, like ridiculously. And we're actually fairly confident and hopeful that the charges will be dismissed. But we're starting to get more and more. We had a woman from Duluth. We had a family actually from Milwaukee, Wisconsin that found out about us and came to a couple of meetings. We had a very high profile case in Anoka that was all over TikTok and the media. We've done some work in Dakota County as well and had some success there. But to answer your question, not any formal chapters, but we do our best to support anyone that comes to us. Unfortunately, we don't have the capacity because all of us have jobs in addition to supporting We Resolve. We're not able to go to Milwaukee to pack the court, or necessarily go to Nicollet to pack the court. In those instances, we're especially hopeful that they are Zoom hearings, because we can certainly do that. So here's just some of the data that we track, and I think timing wise, we're going to be in really good shape here. We'll be able to answer some more questions at the end. So if you have questions that you've been holding off on, please put them in the Q&A and we'll get to them. So data we track. So we very much pay close attention, especially to Ramsey and Hennepin currently. That's where we do the majority of our work. 98% of our work right now is done in Ramsey and Hennepin, between the two of them. Mostly Ramsey, a few cases here and there in Hennepin. The next probably would be Dakota, and then Anoka. Personal demographic data, as Damon has suggested, we are very focused on people of color who are so often silenced and isolated during this process. And we do keep track of that. 99% of the families we serve, or the people that we serve, are people of color. That does not mean that we will not support anyone. Anyone that comes to us, we're going to try and support. And that includes any type of case. There is so much about the different types of cases and what people are charged with that are rooted in fear. And that is not something that we get into whatsoever. We want to be very much rooted in data and reality, and we want people to be supported because people supported us. I pay very close attention to charging data. People ask, what are you seeing? I don't think this will surprise anyone on this call that the overcharging is a problem. And quite honestly, it convinces people that it is so terrible what they're charged with, and so many times, and all of this stuff, to take those plea deals that Raj talked about, and the 90+% percentage of cases. And so we pay close attention to the charging data. How many counts? What are those counts? How much are what's the maximum exposure for the people we support? We keep very close attention to sentencing data. Obviously, we resolve tracks time served or time saved, obviously in comparison to time served. But we also keep track of fines, because it's another form of punishment that is oftentimes on top of the any sort of term of incarceration or local jail time, and it's oftentimes ridiculous. I would say that we have found that Ramsey and Hennepin tend to not pile on with fines, but that is not the case in outstate Minnesota. Outstate Minnesota, that's how they're generating money for their courts, and that's how they're generating money for their jails, quite honestly. And we keep track of confinement time. Another thing that we keep track of very closely, because we believe it's important and it tells part of the story, and is part of our responsibility as well, is we pay close attention annually to the cost of confinement report that the Minnesota Department of Corrections puts out. The 2023 amount is, or maybe it's 2022, they're always a year behind, literally and figuratively, is almost $4,300. And this is the average. So it's about $52,000 a year that we pay as taxpayers and communities to put somebody behind a wall where they most often are not completing their treatment. You heard Marquette talk about the fact that her loved one actually had to come out to get treatment. There are other statistics inside the DOC right now. 68% of people with a sex offense and a treatment mandate for that are leaving the Minnesota Department of Corrections having never completed or started even treatment. So those numbers are not even paying for treatment, but and those are things that we can do in our communities while people are allowed to be with their families and to work and to contribute to our community. And so we pay close attention to the cost of confinement and then what that savings is to our communities. And so what is our data? And this is updated as of last night. We will be over 400 years just by the end of the week, probably. And so because we have a couple of cases that have resolved here in the last couple of days. So we've saved 4,500 months over that, almost 400 years. Fine saved $1.398 million. And The cost of confinement to Minnesota taxpayers in our communities so far in just about 3 years is $18.5 million. And that's a lot of money that can stay in our communities, allowing our people to be with their support and be around people that love them and care about them, and for them to be able to provide for their families. Damon, I think you were going to talk about this.
All right. So I just wanted to pick up on that last thing that you said about the 18 million. we would like to believe, and we would hope that money would be reinvested, but that's something that we as a community are going to have to push our legislators to make sure that happens. So the money is being saved, the time is being saved, but are we're gonna be able to reinvest that back into those individuals, into those communities? So I guess I just want to talk a little bit about what we're hoping. We're hoping to increase, like Tim was talking about, there are places throughout the state of Minnesota that need more support, and we'd like to be able to support them, but presently we do not have the capacity to be able to do that. So that's something that we are diligently working on, and we could use the assistance of anyone on this call. If you can email us with any possible funding resources and things like that, we would greatly appreciate it. I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the demographics that Tim was talking about. The majority of the folks that we work with are Black. 97% of the people that we work with are Black. 80% are males, 20% are females. The majority are coming from Ramsey County, and about 25% are coming from Hennepin County. That is another place that we like to increase our impact in Hennepin County. So we're right now trying to be in better communications with the public defenders in Hennepin County, so that we can better support families in Hennepin County. And there's a list there of individuals and organizations that assist us and that we partner with. Places like Community Stabilization. Tim talked about We Are All Criminals. We are getting a lot of referrals, not only from the public defender's office, but from private attorneys. There are even some deputy sheriffs that will point out to families on the days that we don't show up to court or something like that. They'll say, hey, you might want to call this organization and maybe they can help your loved one. So we are starting to spread our influence, but we want to do more. So are there any other questions that are out there?
There aren't any right now, but we'd love some.
Yeah. And if there's, Marquita, if there's anything that you wanted to add, or please do.
I don't have anything else to add, but I'm open for questions.
Right. Well, we thank you, everyone. This is a real passion of ours, and I just want to let you know that this passion is spreading. You know, as you can see from when we initially started the this webinar, that these 35 different chapters throughout the country, that people are tired of seeing their loved ones beat up by the system. What I've talked to the public defenders before is that for too often we see a white judge, a white prosecutor, and a white public defender, and our loved ones sitting in the middle watching like it's a tennis match, back and forth, to see how your life is going to be decided. So we want to make sure that we are participating in our loved ones' defense. And that's what participatory defense is all about. And we let people know that we're going to be here for the long haul with you. So however long your case takes, we have been working with folks for 3 years. We also work, I think it's one of the things that we didn't talk about, we do work around post-conviction. So we work with some families and some individuals that they're doing time, and we help them to do their post-conviction review. And we put a social biography in with the post-conviction review. So once again, another opportunity to be able to use the social biography, not just at sentencing, like Marquita was saying, but even in post-conviction. Right.
Thank you.
Any last second questions? I see we got reminded we had less than 5 minutes left, so.
I would encourage everyone to go to our website, take a look at our website, see what we do. If you know families or individuals who are going through this process in Ramsey, Hennepin, Anoka, Dakota, please have them give us a call. We might be able to support them as they go through this process.
And also, we did put our impact reports in kind of the shared Google Drive for this session. So there are things there for you if you want more information about us that you can get, where to get a hold of us, our website, all that type of stuff.